I've been playing RollerCoaster Tycoon my entire life. Okay, maybe that's a slight exaggeration. I didn't come out of the womb playing Forest Frontiers, and I've definitely done other things in my life besides just play RCT, but this was one of the very first video games I ever played, and I still actively play and enjoy it to this day. RollerCoaster Tycoon and its sequel, the aptly named RollerCoaster Tycoon 2, both made their way into my life around the same time from a cereal box. But despite having access to both titles, and before too long, thanks to a Scholastic book catalog, the third installment, I never really sank my teeth into the second or third games. I always stuck to the original. So why is that? By all accounts, RCT2 is just a more refined version of the first game. RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 is quite a departure from the first two titles in many ways, so it's more understandable why that version never clicked with me, but why didn't RCT2? The simple answer is the scenario structure. I've always felt that the first game has stronger scenarios than the second, but I'm also not at all qualified to say that because I don't even think I've ever fully beaten an RCT2 scenario. Actually, that's not true. I know I beat a couple expansion scenarios when I got my first laptop, and I've definitely beaten at least one or two base game scenarios at some point in my life. I have played the game, just nowhere near as much as I have the original. But the reason the scenarios feel stronger in the first game is because of the way they're presented to you, not necessarily because they're actually any better, although in my biased and uninformed opinion, they absolutely are. You start out with just a few scenarios unlocked, and more unlock as you complete them. The difficulty curve isn't perfect, but in general you start out with easier scenarios and move your way up to more challenging ones. In the sequel, the scenarios are listed in alphabetical order, and even worse, they're all unlocked from the start. That always bothered me. And even now, knowing that there is a list of scenarios from easiest to hardest that I could follow, I don't want to. It feels so wrong to complete the scenarios out of order. Now, admittedly, that is slightly more of a personal problem, but it's a personal problem that wouldn't exist if Chris Sawyer had just stuck to the existing scenario structure from the first game. In many ways, I see the original RollerCoaster Tycoon as a rare, perfect game, one that didn't need a sequel. Sure, there are things I wish were doable in the first title, like being able to build coasters and stalls above ground, but there are workarounds to those problems. And despite how many hundreds of hours I've sank into this game, I don't play at a very high level. And as much as I do enjoy Marcel Voss's videos, I don't want to be making decisions based on how the game's code is structured, or building ultra-efficient rides to take advantage of loopholes. I'd much rather build relatively realistic parks with rides I'd actually want to go on. So ultimately, the reason I find myself going back to the first game instead of its sequel is because it's the one I want to play. That, and I still have scenarios to beat. Yeah, I've completed all the base game scenarios at least twice, but I only just finished making my way through Corkscrew Follies today. Actually, that's a lie. It's just narratively it sounds better to me to say today than a few days ago, and it doesn't even matter. It's just a white lie for the story's sake, so please find it somewhere in your heart to forgive me. I still have all the loopy landscape scenarios to complete too, and by the time I'm done those, I'm sure I'll be ready to replay the base game again. Because when I was a kid, our family computer seemed to constantly be running into problems. Probably due to all the questionable songs being downloaded off of LimeWire and FrostWire, and all the questionable Minecraft mods that I'd download, but that's besides the point. What this meant is I was constantly losing my progress. Besides that, I also wasn't very good at the game. I don't think I ever made it past Bumbly Beach until I was in middle school. So my experience for most of my childhood was just constantly replaying those first 6 scenarios. So it makes sense that, as an adult, I'd want to continue in that vein and just keep replaying the first game endlessly. So what was the point of this video? I don't know. I just really loved RollerCoaster Tycoon and felt like completing Corkscrew Follies was a good excuse to talk about it. And I hope for you, the viewer, this video has achieved the same thing that Marcel's videos do for me, which is to say, I hope I've inspired you to boot up your PC and play some RCT.